Welcome to my channel. Here we explore the world of criminal mysteries. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I regularly publish new videos. You will always be waiting for new exciting stories. Turn on notifications to not miss any investigation. Let's get started. In 2013, California experienced the largest manhunt in U.S. history. More than 2,000 police officers were involved in the search for a single suspect. However, despite the fact that the wanted man was alone, he was the one who openly declared war on the LAPD, and any police officer was terrified of a possible confrontation with him. As for ordinary Americans, many of them, despite the wanted felon status in the eyes of the police, considered him a hero. Christopher Darner was born in New Jersey on July 4, 1979. While still a child, his family moved to the suburbs of Los Angeles, California, where Christopher spent his entire youth. He was the only black boy in his class and was often ridiculed by his classmates. However, he did not allow jokes about his race, and for this reason he had to fight often. In 1997, Christopher graduated from high school and enrolled at Southern Utah University. During his studies, he won many friends who described him as a cheerful and smiling guy, for whom the main values were honesty and justice. Christopher was very athletic and a good person, so he was quickly invited to join the university's American soccer team. He graduated in 2001 with majors in political science and psychology. He then went to serve in the Navy. Already a year after being drafted in 2002, Christopher commanded a security unit at Naval Base Fallon, Nevada. He went on to serve as a member of the Naval Mobile Undersea Warfare Unit. While serving in the Navy in 2002, an interesting incident happened to Christopher that characterizes him well as a person. Christopher found a bag of donations for a local church that contained almost $8,000. Christopher immediately turned the bag in at the nearest police station. This was later written about in one of the newspapers. When asked by reporters why he did so, Christopher replied that his mother had taught him honesty and integrity, and he could not do otherwise. During his time in the Army, Christopher received excellent combat training, mastered many firearms, learned many combat survival techniques, and became a master of hand-to-hand combat. He was so good at these disciplines that he was awarded merit badges for his shooting and pistol skills. In 2005, Christopher Darner enrolled in the Los Angeles Police Academy and successfully graduated a year later. He was then called back into the Army and was sent on a combat mission to Bahrain, where he spent 6 months. Christopher then returned to the police force in 2007. His police service began with a traineeship under the supervision of his more experienced partner, Sergeant Teresa Evans. On July 28, 2007, Chris Darner and Teresa Evans went on a call to a local hotel. The call involved a mentally unstable person in the hotel who was disturbing employees and guests. The officers quickly dealt with the troublemaker, who turned out to be Christopher Detler, and did not take him to the police station. They simply escorted him out of the hotel and warned him that next time he would be taken to jail. However, this incident later played a fateful role in Christopher's fate. 2 weeks later, Christopher's mentor, Officer Teresa Evans, wrote an internship report stating that Christopher Darner was not yet ready for full duty and needed to improve his skills in several areas. The next day, Christopher filed a report on Officer Teresa Evans' actions in apprehending Christopher Detler, who had been escorted out of the hotel a few days earlier. The report stated that Evans used excessive force on Detler, punching him twice in the face when he was already handcuffed and lying on the floor. An internal investigation was launched as a result of the report. The commission took testimony from several witnesses, including Christopher Detler's father, who reported that his son's face was swollen after the incident, and Detler himself stated that he was struck by a female officer.
Being interviewed and tape recorded with his permission is Christopher Detler. Is that correct? Correct, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you about the police contact that you had with the at the DoubleTree Hotel. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember being taken into custody by the police?
Uh-huh.
Okay, do you remember whether there was a struggle?
Mm-hmm.
And during that struggle, were you kicked in the face?
Mm-hmm.
You have to say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember how many times you were kicked in the face?
Once.
Okay. And do you remember where you were kicked in the face?
Right here.
Okay. And do you remember who kicked you in the face?
An officer.
Do you remember what sex? Was it a male or female?
It was a female.
Later, Gettler began to confuse his testimony. He was schizophrenic, and the commission decided that his testimony could not be reliable in this case. As for other witnesses, 3 hotel employees stated that they did not see police officers hitting Christopher Gettler while arresting him. One of the hotel employees even recalled asking Darner to adjust his tie that day, but photos from the scene showed that Christopher was not wearing a tie, casting doubt on the hotel employee's testimony. However, there was no compromise in this case. There were only 2 possible theories. Either the commission decides that Teresa Evans used excessive force on an already defenseless detainee, which could have resulted in a media scandal. Or they decide that she is not guilty, which means that Christopher Darner lied in his report. In the end, the commission concluded that Darner's report was not credible and that it was motivated by fear of Teresa Evans, who might evaluate him negatively, which could have ended his career in the police force. So, on September 4, 2008, 8 months after the report was filed, Christopher Darner was fired from the LAPD. However, Christopher was determined to fight to the end. He filed countless appeals to various courts asking to be reinstated, but was denied each time. He fell into a deep depression, his wife left him, and he tried to return to the Army, but because of his police report, even there he was rejected. In 2013, his discharge from the Army was the final blow that broke him forever. On the evening of February 3, 2013, the bodies of a young couple, 28-year-old Monica Queen and 27-year-old Keith Lawrence, were found in Irvine, California. They were both killed by gunshots to the head in a parking lot outside their home. Monica was the daughter of former local police chief and now attorney Randolph Quinn. Her fiancé, Keith Lawrence, was an officer in the Department of Public Safety. The murder was carried out very professionally, and the killer left no clues. At first, it was suspected that the murder was related to Monica's police work and that a local gang group had ordered it. However, the next day, an open letter by Christopher Darner to the American people, containing more than 11,000 words, appeared on the internet. Here are some excerpts from it. I know that many of you, even those who know me personally, do not believe what I am saying right now. You are saying to yourselves that this is uncharacteristic of the man you knew. I know that the press and the LAPD will abuse me. Unfortunately, it is a necessary evil that I do not welcome, but I must face it in order to bring about change in the LAPD. The question is, what will you do to protect your honor? A name is more than just a word. It is your life, your legacy, your sacrifices, and everything you have worked hard for every day, whether you are a teenager, a young adult, or already mature. Don't let anyone tarnish your reputation if you are clear before your conscience. On July 8, 2007, I filed a report on Officer Teresa Evans for battery on a suspect, Christopher Gettler. Evans punched him twice in the chest and once in the face when he was already handcuffed. The punch to the face left a bruise on his left cheek. It is not fair for a police officer to beat a mentally ill person. Unfortunately, no action was taken by supervisory authorities after I reported the incident. I violated corporate ethics, and 10 months after successfully completing my probationary period, I was fired from the LAPD. The department retaliated against me for reporting Teresa Evans. In September, during my hearing, a video was played of Christopher Gettler, stating that he was indeed hit by a female officer. This was also confirmed by his father, but they still found me guilty and fired me. During the hearing, the department tried unsuccessfully to label me as a bully. They claimed that I bullied recruit Abraham Sheffrins at the academy, when in fact the investigation showed that I was the one who stood up for Abraham. At a time when other recruits were spreading Nazi songs and chants about the suiting of the Jewish people, knowing that Obraham's father was a survivor of a Nazi concentration camp. How the hell dare you say such things about me? Why didn't you accuse me of filing a false police report when I stated that Officer Evans punched Mr. Christopher Gettler? You should have filed criminal charges against me, but you didn't because you knew I was innocent and a criminal court would have found me not guilty. I would have exposed your department for hiding the truth and retribution. That's why you didn't prosecute. I'm asking reporters to check every place I lived as a child. Find every instance where I was accused of bullying. You can't do that because it just doesn't exist. It's not in my DNA. I have used every available avenue to get my honest name back. I've used every legal recourse through an appeal in the higher courts. This is my last resort. The LAPD is trying to suppress the truth, and now it could have deadly consequences. The actions of the LAPD cost me my career, which began on July 2, 2005, and ended on February 1, 2009. Essentially, I lost everything because the LAPD took my name and trampled on it. Captain Filton DeGreedis, Justin Eidingberg, Ranjik Wynn, and Sage Anderson, you all knew I was innocent, but chose to sacrifice me for Officer Evans' career. I know there were meetings between all of you where Evans' attorney Rick admitted that she kicked Christopher Gettler. Fortunately, I don't have to live every day like most of you. Self-preservation no longer matters to me. I have no fear of death since I died a long time ago, February 1, 2009. The attacks will stop when the department publicly acknowledges my innocence. I will not accept any currency in exchange for stopping the attacks, nor do I want to. I just want my name. There will be no negotiation. I know all your techniques, tactics, and procedures. Any threats you use will be useless. I have nothing left to lose. My personal loss means nothing. You can't defeat a fighter who doesn't fear death. You know I've always been a better shot. Suppressing the truth will have deadly consequences for you and your families. I know your routines, the routines of your loved ones, even your children. Where you work, where you live, where you eat, and where you sleep will have an element of surprise. Whatever reactions you have pre-planned for a scenario like mine, set them aside. I will not harm a civilian unless it is a death threat to me. Nor do I wish to harm ordinary patrol officers, so civilians and patrol officers, if you see my vehicle, do not pursue it. If you continue to follow me or inform police officers of my location, hoping to receive a Medal of Honor, know that you will not survive. Your families will receive the Medal of Honor posthumously. It will sit on a police officer's shelf and then one day go into a box with other memories of you. Your mother may lose a son or daughter. Your other half will be alone, but may find someone else to fill the void, and she will be happy with another person in the future. Your children, if you have them, may start calling someone else mom or dad. Don't be selfish. Think about your loved ones before trying to stop me. Also think about whether it is worth sacrificing yourself for lying and cruel people. For ordinary Americans, I want to say, don't think that police officers are your friends by default. They can stand by and watch you bleed to death, telling your ambulance that it's none of their business. They can take pictures of your loved ones' bodies on their cell phones and play the game of determining who has the brighter corpse among officers from other departments. It's not just brainless 20-year-olds doing this, but grown-up 50-year-old officers as well. For my friends listed below, I wanted us to be able to grow old together and spend more time together. When you think back on our friendship, think of this and only this. Don't think about my last action. It was a necessary measure for me to get my name back. Luis Sanchez is my best friend, naval officer, pilot, and also the best father and husband. I never had a big brother, but I always wanted to have a brother like you, Jason Volodau. You are the greatest friend, naval officer, pilot, great father, husband, doctor, and simply put, the best person. I have always strived to live my life according to the same moral principles as you. Your wife is lucky to have found a man like you, and you are lucky to have married a wonderful woman. Domenica, take care of this guy. I'm sorry I missed your wedding because of those damn courts, and you had to find another best man. Jason Uzera, my friend, lawyer, father, husband, and the most politically incorrect comrade there can be. Your best quality is that you never sugarcoat the truth. Thanks for introducing me to fishing and hunting. We city boys don't get out as much as you Alaskan guys. I love you, brother. Kalorok Moore. Thank you for your interesting training and mentorship. You are the United States Marines. Never forget that. I thank my friends for an amazing experience together. It's a little sad that I won't be around to watch and enjoy the third installment of Boyhood in Vegas. What an amazing trilogy. Thank you again to all my friends. You guys have been very important to me. Don't be mad at me. I missed some of your weddings and unfortunately some funerals. Some people say it's my fault I got fired. I remember being told in a fit of anger that I should have kept my mouth shut. Maybe none of this would have happened then, but I'm not like others. It's not in my nature. I'm not an aspiring rapper. I'm not a gang member. I'm not a drug dealer. I'm an American by choice. I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm military. I am a man who completely lost faith in the system when the system gave and acclimated him. I have lived a good life. And while I was not a religious man, I always stuck to my personal code. I didn't need the Navy to instill honor in me. It was already in my DNA, but I am grateful to the Navy for reinforcing it. My mom told me that sometimes bad things happen to good people. I refuse to accept that. In his address, Christopher Dorner declared war on the people who were involved in his firing. His first victim was the daughter of the attorney who represented him in court, Randall Quinn. According to Dorner, Quinn had cooperated with the LAPD and deliberately destroyed Dorner's line of defense. From that point on, two great hunts began. The Christopher Dorner hunt for the people mentioned in his plea, and the California police hunt for Christopher Dorner. Not surprisingly, immediately after the publication of his appeal, Christopher Dorner became the most talked about person in the United States. More than 2,000 police officers were assigned to protect the homes of his alleged victims and to catch him. The problem was that most of the Los Angeles patrolmen consisted of either recent graduates of police academies or people who had never encountered a man as dangerous as Christopher Dorner. He was an excellent military trainee, a brilliant marksman, and a man who had been in actual combat. He knew all their modus operandi and could skillfully counter any attempts by the police to locate him. Unsurprisingly, the police were riddled with fear when confronting him, so much so that they fired on him at even the slightest suspicion of his whereabouts. This led to several civilian casualties during the hunt for Christopher Dorner, but the police themselves, not Dorner, were the culprits. For example, on February 7 around 5:30 am, police officers opened fire on a blue Toyota that supposedly matched the description of Dorner's car, but was occupied by 71-year-old Emma Carranza and her daughter, 47-year-old Margaret Carranza. The women delivered newspapers in the area every morning. Police officers cited the car was traveling with its headlights off. Both women survived but were injured. They explained that they did not turn on the headlights so as not to wake anyone up with the bright lights. The Los Angeles City Administration later agreed to pay $4 million in compensation to the injured women. Half an hour after this incident, police officers stopped another car and also opened fire, claiming that the car matched the description of Dorner's car. However, it turned out to be a completely different car of a different color and driven by a white male who was not injured in the firing. Later, t-shirts began to be sold on the internet with a caption ironizing the police paranoia. "I'm not Christopher Dorner, please don't shoot me." The police's fear was understandable, as by this point, Christopher Dorner had managed to commit another murder. On February 7, around 1:30 am, two police officers were on their way to guard one of the officers mentioned in Dorner. They were stopped by a civilian named Lamac Daniel, who reported seeing a man resembling Dorner at a nearby gas station. The police officers went to the gas station, and near the gas station, they did indeed find a car similar in description. They followed it, and suddenly the pickup stopped. The driver's door of the car opened, and Dorner fired several shots at the patrol car, wounding two police officers. They both survived, but could no longer continue the pursuit. About 25 minutes later, in a neighboring area of town, another patrol car spotted a vehicle similar to Dorner's pickup, but they were less fortunate. During the exchange of gunfire, Dorner hit Officer Mila Crane in the head and seriously wounded intern Andrew Tokais. He did not continue the attack and fled the scene. A cab driver who witnessed the shooting rushed to the aid of the police officers. The best he could do in this situation was to radio the motionless Officer Tokaj to notify dispatch of what had happened. An ambulance arrived on the scene quickly, and Andrew Tokaj was taken to the hospital where he underwent major surgery but survived. His mentor, Michael Crane, died at the scene. He, as Dorner mentioned in his open letter, was awarded the Medal of Honor, but posthumously. His wife lost her husband and his children lost their father. Dorner himself skillfully fled the scene of the accident, and despite all the police searching for him, he seemed to vanish into thin air. Only 7 hours later, his pickup truck was found burned 120 kilometers from Los Angeles. The police assumed that he hid in the mountainous terrain, but every step had to be made carefully, as Dorner could wait for the police with a sniper rifle in any place. 2 days after that, on February 9, authorities announced their intention to review the case that led to Dorner's dismissal. On the 5th day after Dorner released his plea, the highest reward in California history was announced, at $1 million for information leading to his capture. It became the largest manhunt in U.S. history. Several thousand police officers were involved in the search. Authorities set up 24-hour aerial surveillance of the region, but Dorner still managed to successfully escape. This was largely due to sudden weather changes that significantly reduced visibility. This posed a problem not only for the police, but also for Dorner himself, as he needed somewhere to hide in such weather. The police speculated that he could be hiding in one of the hundreds of mountain huts in the area, but checking each one was dangerous, as Dorner could be waiting for the police. 5 days after Dorner's burned-out car was found, the police finally got on his trail. This happened because Dorner, as promised, did not take the lives of innocent citizens, and many residents began to cooperate with the police. On February 12, the San Bernardino Police Department received a call from a woman named Karen Reynolds. She said that Dorner had broken into their cabin, tied her and her husband up, took their car, and left. He asked them not to call the police. However, Karen managed to free herself, and she immediately gave the police the make and license plate number of the car Dorner was driving. He could have killed them both, and then the police would still not know his whereabouts. But Christopher stayed true to his principles and did not harm Karen and her husband. Soon the stolen car was found wrecked. Afterward, another man contacted San Bernardino police. He said he was standing in his pickup truck on the side of the road, and Dorner approached him with a gun in his hand. Dorner told him, "I don't want to hurt you, but I want your car. Take your dog and leave." This time, police officers were able to spot Dorner. One of the helicopters replaced a stolen pickup truck near the cabin. Police assumed Dorner had barricaded himself inside the cabin. Officers Alex Collins and Jeremiah McKay were the first to arrive. Dorner didn't give them a chance, and they were shot and killed. Soon the full force of police and SWAT were rushed to the cabin, and the cabin was surrounded, but Dorner had no way back. Police first tried to force him to surrender using tear gas, but Dorner did not respond. Police used an excavator to partially destroy the shack and then threw incendiary rounds, causing the shack to catch fire. Police officers offered Dorner to surrender, but he chose a different path, and while inside the cabin engulfed in flames, Dorner fired the final shot. The fire continued into the evening, and it wasn't until the next day that police reported finding human remains in the burned-out cabin. Medical examiners confirmed that the remains were those of Christopher Dorner. The cause of death was a gunshot that Dorner had fired into his head. After these events, public opinion was divided into two camps. Some believed that Dorner was a common criminal and deserved to die. Others, on the contrary, saw Dorner as a folk hero fighting for the truth. In their opinion, he opened the public's eyes to the problems within the police force. Regardless of one's point of view, Christopher Dorner's story cannot leave one indifferent. Thank you for watching.